Can you define what fundamentalism is and what the follies of fundamentalism are and what some of the solutions are?
Well, this, what you might call a problem, hit me mostly during the 9/11, because during 9/11, the Taliban that perpetrated this atrocity were not just, quote, Islam or Muslim. It made people look at the different branches of the different religions, and it doesn't matter if it's Christianity or it's Islam or it's Hindu or it's Buddhist. There's always the more mystical branches of a religion, and then there's the middle ones, and then there's the base fundamentalists. And the fundamentalists were the Taliban in this case. They would interpret things very, very literally. Like one place in the Quran, and I've read the Quran, it says, kill all things that are not of Allah. And it was talking about inner qualities, that we needed to be more godlike, that we needed to get rid of those qualities that were not like Allah. And if you take it out of context and just say, kill all that is not Allah, then you could be a jihad or whatever. But this is not what the Quran meant. And as people would try to make this into a holy war and say, oh, well, the Christians are against the Muslims, this is so untrue, because we are not against Islam or the Muslims. We are against those fundamentalist branch that would mistranslate and interpret on such a fundamental level that they could just kill whole, like genocide, whole groups of people. And it makes you look at other religions and our own fundamentalists through the Inquisition and the Salem witch hunts and all this. In our Christian religion, the fundamentalists have done atrocious things because they interpreted everything very fundamentally. And to me, it's a great problem. And through the years, I've looked at the upper echelons of each religion, the Druses and the different ones that are very, very high. In our Christian religion, I would say it would be the metaphysicians. And to me, the word metaphysical, meta means beyond, physical means literal. So a quick definition of metaphysician or metaphysical would be to go beyond the physical, literal. And I felt so strongly about this that I wrote a letter to the editor, and I got different variety of responses, and I decided to enlarge my letter to the editor into a book. And I call it Beyond the Follies of Fundamentalism. And in this book, I'm trying to show people what Jesus said and how it has been misinterpreted or interpreted on a lesser level. And not to put anybody down, everybody is at what they understand, I guess, in some what interpretation they are, where they belong. And if we went in and changed them and told them what you believe is all wrong, you got to believe this, that would just do them harm and confuse them. So it's not that we want to go in and change anybody. Everybody has free will. But I think books like this can maybe awaken those who are ready, those who are kind of on the borderline, like they've been raised to know that, are told that certain things mean certain things, and it's not making sense to them anymore because it's too fundamental, it's too physically interpreted rather than spiritually. And so I quote Jesus in what he said that was so beyond the very fundamental physical, literal interpretations, and point out what it is that he's trying to get at and what it really means about the kingdom of God and how we get into the kingdom of God, and that everything that we do has to be on a spiritual level, not on a physical level. And so I'm not putting anybody down at all, but just trying to plant enough seeds that for those who are ready will say, okay, maybe there's a higher way of interpreting this, and gradually climb above the fundamentalists. Because to me, fundamental is probably important because when you first start, that's maybe all that they can understand. And I liken it to building a foundation of a house. And Jesus said you can't build on the sand, you need a good foundation and a cornerstone. And I think the fundamentalists do that. But I think we can't just stay at the foundation. We want to come up and build the rest of the house and eventually put on the roof and then an antenna and eventually ascend, make our ascension, which Jesus taught us to do. And as I explain the things in this Follies of Fundamentalism and how the Follies is in being too literal, I decided to write what I refer to or think of as the most esoteric book I've ever written. I call it Revelation Revealed. And the reason I wrote this, it's about the 12 steps that lead us to our ascension, the 12 things that we have to go through. And I don't think Revelation is about cataclysms and bad governments and devils. I think that's a literal interpretation, but I think it's talking more about what's happening within us, in our kingdom within, and getting to the kingdom within. Like the earthquakes are the inner earthquakes that we go through, the traumas, and the beasts are lesser qualities. And so I go through the 12 steps of how we really progress and give you guidelines of what each step does and how you can determine exactly where you are on the spiritual path by which steps you're into and what lessons you are still learning at the time.